And welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. In this one, I'll quickly cover the switch statement in Swift. Uh, a switch is a little bit different from other switch statement in other languages. So first of all, I'll show you a real world scenario where you would use the switch statement. So if you're making, for example, an iOS application, and let's say for the simplicity reasons that only iPhone 4, 5 and 6 exist, and you want to change your UI depending on which iPhone the user is using. So you would use switch for that. So in switch uh, you you put a variable in here. You have multiple cases that may or may not match that variable, and this variable can be of any type. It can be a string. In our case it will be string. It will be the name of the device. And let's say here we put our variable. Actually, I'll show you inside code. I'll go in my playground, and here let's imagine that this is dynamic variable. It will be if you're doing a real world example. It will not be hard coded like this. You would have something like UI screen dot device dot type or something like that. Along those lines, you would get the device name and then dynamically, and then you get something like this. Let's say iPhone 5. And in switch, you would use a switch to check which device is the user using. And as I said, it can be only 3 devices. So, and depending on which device he uses, you would do something to the UI. If he has a smaller screen, he uses a smaller screen like iPhone 4, you may kind of shrink the UI. And if you're using iPhone 5, you may kind of make the height larger or something like that. So we're going to use a switch statement, and here we're going to plug our device name. And for case, here we're going to plug in a string variable, which will be first of all the iPhone 4, and here's the code that executes if this value here matches this string over here. So for now, I'm going to just print change the UI for iPhone 4, and it doesn't really matter what I type here. I'm going to add another case. This will be the iPhone 5, and another case with the iPhone 6, and I'll change this accordingly. Also, every switch statement has a default case, so if none of these match, so if the device name is something like iPhone, I don't know, 50, nothing will match, and this default case will execute. And here I'll just print out default. Just so you know, every case needs to have at least one line of executable statement, so you cannot leave cases like this. Also in Swift, it's important to mention that you don't need to use break if you want to exit one case after the code, after this case is matched and the code for it has executed. For example, if the device name is iPhone 5, like so, if this case matches, which it will, because we have iPhone 5 here, after running this code and of course getting it here to the console, immediately it will stop basically checking the following cases if there are any. In this case, it will skip this and this, of course, and come back here. Also, another thing you can do is, let's say if I have an age variable that will be 21, you can check for this age variable instead of the device name. And here you can check actually for multiple values. So if you are 20 and 21, you can match this, and whoops. So here you can check for 2 variables. So in our case, actually let me change these to some number because Xcode is screaming at me. So I'm going to do 10, 12, doesn't really matter. So you can check for two variables, and now we'll get this statement printed out, iPhone 4, because so the age can match this or any of this. This is like saying 20 or 21. Another thing you can check for is range. So you can check for a range, let's say from 1 to 18 years, you do something else. From let's say 18 up on all the way until 60, you may do something else. In our case, this case will be matched, as you can see. So if you enjoy videos like this one, make sure to subscribe here. Thank you so much for watching, and peace out.